I'm posting this because I don't know what else to do with it. I've been sitting on this for 3 months now, and it's gotten to the point where I can't sleep properly anymore. Not because of nightmares or anything dramatic like that. I just lie there thinking about it, turning it over in my head like a rock I can't put down. I should probably start by saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've got a master's degree in radio astronomy from UC Berkeley. I've worked at 3 different observatories. I know the difference between a pulsar and a satellite glitch. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand that I'm not some hysterical idiot who heard strange noises and decided it was aliens. Also, I've already signed an NDA, so technically I'm not supposed to be sharing any of this. But the NDA was for a private research consortium, not a government. And they dissolved 6 weeks ago without any explanation. So screw it. I was stationed at a remote listening array in the Atacama Desert in Chile. I can't tell you exactly where, not because of the NDA, but because I genuinely don't think I could find it again without GPS coordinates. And I deleted those from my phone. The desert out there all looks the same. Just rust-coloured dirt and rocks that go on forever. And a sky so clear at night, it doesn't even look real. The array itself was small. 12 dishes, each about 8 meters across. We were listening for exoplanet atmospheric signatures mainly. Boring stuff. The kind of work where you're hoping to maybe, detect a whiff of methane around a planet 300 light years away and get your name on a paper that 6 people will read. There were supposed to be 4 of us rotating through shifts, but by the time this happened, it was down to just me and Dr. Reeves. The other 2 researchers had left after the first month. One said the isolation was getting to her, which, fair enough. The nearest town was 4 hours by truck. Personally, I don't mind the isolation. In fact, I actually enjoy it. It's one of the reasons I took this job, to be honest. The other guy didn't give a reason. He just stopped showing up to his shifts, and we found out later he'd driven back to Santiago in the middle of the night. Dr. Reeves didn't talk much. He was in his 60s, British. Had that weathered look that some older academics get, where they seem annoyed that their body still requires food and sleep. We'd go days barely speaking, except for shift handoffs. Anything? No. Right. That kind of thing. The routine was absolutely mind-numbing. 12-hour shifts monitoring the data feeds. Most of what we picked up was exactly what you'd expect. Cosmic background radiation. Pulsars we'd catalogued 1,000 times. The occasional satellite bleed. I'd drink coffee, check the logs, run diagnostics on the receivers, and then drink more coffee. I got really into this mobile game where you manage a virtual aquarium. That's how bored I was. We had protocols, obviously. The consortium was serious about that part, even if everything else was half-cocked. Rule 1. Verify the source of any anomalous signal using at least 2 independent methods. Rule 2. Document everything with timestamps and save redundant copies. Rule 3. Never attempt to decrypt or analyze a level 5 classified signal without a second researcher present. I broke Rule 3. I'm not proud of it, but I'm also not sure it would have mattered. It happened on a Thursday night. I remember because I'd been thinking about how it was technically Friday back home, and my sister was probably at happy hour. And God, what I wouldn't give for a terrible margarita and some loud music. The spike came through around 11:47 p.m. At first, I thought it was a glitch. The signal amplitude just jumped, like someone had turned up the volume on the whole universe. I checked the other dishes, and they were all picking it up. All 12, in perfect sync. That's not how interference works, by the way. Satellite bleed, atmospheric scatter, even equipment malfunction. They don't show up identically across an entire array. I ran the diagnostics twice. Everything checked out. The frequency was weird. It was low, much lower than we normally monitored, around 40 Hz. That's almost subsonic for humans. You'd feel it more than hear it. I isolated the waveform and ran it through the audio filters. That's when it stopped being a signal and became a sound. I don't know how to describe it really. I'd never heard anything like it. But hey, I'll give it a shot. It had this organic quality to it. Like, okay, this is going to sound insane. Like someone breathing. But huge. Like if a mountain could have lungs. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just listening to it through my headphones. It had a rhythm. Slow, but not perfectly regular. It would swell, hold, release. Swell, hold, release. And underneath that, there were these smaller patterns. Harmonic layers. I kept thinking it reminded me of something, but I couldn't place it. Dr. Reeves was asleep in his quarters. I should have woken him up. That's what Rule 3 was for. But I didn't, and I still can't fully explain why. Part of it was that I wanted to figure it out first. Part of it was something else. This creeping sense that once I showed this to someone else, it would become real in a way I wasn't ready for. I started running it through our decryption algorithms. Not because I thought it was a message. I didn't, not really. I just wanted to see what the pattern looked like when you broke it down mathematically. The software flagged it immediately. Have you ever seen those visualizations of proteins folding? Where they show you how the molecule twists and loops into this impossibly specific shape. That's what the waveform looked like when I mapped it. It looked like it had been built by an intelligent mind, not random at all. I ran it through the linguistic analysis module, mostly out of curiosity. That's when things got weird. The program spat out a partial translation, 73% confidence, which for an unknown signal is actually weirdly high. But the content didn't make sense. It looks like fragments of a conversation. Confirming Sector 779. Baseline temperature within acceptable variance. Is this the sector where the infestation started? I stared at that word for a long time. Infestation. Then the next fragment came through. Yes, should sanitize before we move on. My hands were shaking. I saved everything, made backups, followed Rule 2 like my life depended on it. I kept telling myself there had to be a rational explanation. Maybe I'd picked up some radio chatter, something that was just going through the airwaves. Or perhaps the software was just glitching. It did that sometimes. It drove the tech crew insane. But the signal kept going, and it was getting stronger. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The direction. I pulled up the coordinates of where the array was pointed, where this signal was coming from. It wasn't coming from a fixed point in space. It was moving. Not in orbit. Not like a satellite or even a comet. It was moving in a straight line, directly across our field of observation, like something passing by. I pulled up the historical data. The signal had been there, faint, for the past 6 days. It had been getting incrementally louder as it approached, and now it was almost at its peak, which meant in a few more hours it would start to fade. Whatever was out there, though, wasn't transmitting to us. They must have had no idea that we were even aware of it. We were just eavesdropping. I should have shut everything down right then, woken up Dr. Reeves. Hell, I should have just gotten in the truck and driven until I hit civilization. But I didn't. I sat there and kept listening. And I kept running the fragments through the translator. And this picture started to form. They were talking about Earth. Not by name, obviously. They used a coordinate system I didn't recognize. But when I cross-referenced the stellar positioning data, the declination and right ascension, it matched. They were talking about our solar system. Specifically, the third planet from the sun. Biological noise consistent with pre-industrial markers. Should we log it? Not worth the entry. We've seen thousands like this. That's when I started feeling it. Not in my head, in my body. That 40 hertz frequency, it was rattling something in my chest. My teeth felt weird. It reminded me of standing too close to a subwoofer. Except, the subwoofer was apparently the size of a planet. And then the pattern changed. It happened so fast I almost missed it. The rhythm broke. The harmonic layers shifted into something different. It sounded panicked somehow, and began to jump around frantically. The translator started spitting out new fragments. Wait. There's a listener. I took my headphones off. My hands were actually shaking now, like I'd had 10 cups of coffee. The sound was still there, coming from the monitors, from the equipment. That low biological pulse. I ran a new analysis. To my dismay, the signal was narrowing, focusing on us, on the array. The next fragment that came through, I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly. I've gone over the recording so many times that I might be filling in gaps my brain wants to see. But I swear, this is what it said. I hear a listener. Down there, in the quiet blue. That's when Dr. Reeves walked in. He looked half asleep, annoyed. Do you know what time it? Then he heard it. That sound, coming from everywhere now, rattling the windows. His face went white. Shut it down, he said. I can't, I told him. Which was true, I'd already tried. The dishes weren't responding to commands. They were locked on something, tracking it. Then cut the power, he said. So I did. I literally walked to the breaker panel and shut down everything. The lights went out. The monitors went dark. The whole facility went silent. Except for the sound. It was still there. Quieter, but there. Coming from the walls, from the ground, from the air itself. Like the whole desert was vibrating at that same low frequency. Dr. Reeves looked at me. I'd never seen him look scared before. We need to leave, he said. And go where? I asked. He didn't have an answer for that. We stood there in the dark for what felt like hours, but was probably only a few minutes. Eventually, the sun started to rise. The sound faded. By the time it was full daylight, it was gone completely. We turned the power back on. I couldn't find any evidence of what I'd found. It was as though it was just wiped from the system. Except I know what I heard. Dr. Reeves knows what he heard. The consortium pulled us out 2 days later. They didn't explain why. They just sent a helicopter and told us our rotation was over. When I inquired about the signal, about the data, the guy just looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language and said there was no signal. It was an equipment malfunction. Dr. Reeves and I haven't spoken since. I've been trying to convince myself it was all some kind of mass hallucination. Shared psychosis brought on by isolation and boredom. But I know what I heard. The thing that keeps me up isn't wondering whether it was real. I know it was real. What keeps me up is this. They didn't care about us. We weren't a threat or a curiosity. We were just background noise. The only reason they even noticed us at all was because we were listening. Because we heard them. And the way they talked about Earth, about us, it was so casual. Like they were entomologists, discussing if they should take a sample of an interesting anthill before they pave the road. I keep thinking about that phrase. Should we sanitize before we move on? The signal's long gone now. Whatever it was, it passed by our little blue dot and kept going. But I can't stop wondering if they marked our location. If they flagged it in some database we can't even imagine. If someday, someone's going to come back. Last week, I was reading about these ants they found in the Amazon. They have this fungus that infects them, takes over their nervous system, makes them climb to a high point so the fungus can spread its spores. The ants have no idea what's happening to them. They just follow the impulse. I wonder if we'd even know. If they decided we needed sanitizing. If we'd see it coming, or if we'd just follow the impulse. Anyway, that's what I know. Make of it what you will. I'm tired.